All right, guys, we are live. I am not sure how well this is working, so I will admit this is a brand new setup that we're doing for the live streams going forward. It's a little bit different than my other Thursday live streams, so for those of you who follow my channel at all and pay attention, yes, I am live a lot with a bunch of different people, and I just can't get enough talking fishing, so I just do that. You were just saying before we jumped in here, you're gonna go fishing on the 23rd. So you have not been fishing since when? When was the last time you went fishing, dude?
Oh my, good lord! It's been back in June because it just got so dang hot down in Alabama after June. We wasn't able to get out. I mean, you could get out in the morning until 8 o'clock, and then it was 100 degrees.
Dude, so that's one thing that it's funny. I've kind of come full circle. So I wanted to move to Tennessee. That was like a goal, right?
Right?
But I don't know if I do anymore because the one commonality I'm hearing from Daniel in Georgia, when you were down in Alabama, Alex Rudd sometimes talks about like the heat and how like, yeah, I can't fish when there's ice. I mean, I can, but I have to ice fish. But like, I couldn't imagine it being too hot to fish. But I'm also from the Northeast, so 90 is too hot for me. So when you start looking at 110, I'm like, I don't know if I want to move down there and try to fish in that kind of crap.
Uh, Dude, you're waking up and it's 88, 89, 90 at 6 o'clock in the morning while you're breaking a sweat loading your kayak up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, unless you're on a boat and you're able to actually catch some AC across the lake, it's just too dang hot to fish.
Well, and that's kind of it's funny because the other thing I found out, like, I didn't think about this, but like one of my favorite things to do is fish small lakes, like
Mm-hmm.
small 300, 400, 500 acre ponds, really. Like most places call them ponds. Up here, to be honest, I haven't figured this out yet, what the definition of a lake is. Because there's some places up here, dude, that are fucking tiny. And they're like, oh, this is this lake. And I'm like, but the place I just fished is called a pond and it's 3 times the acreage.
Exactly. I haven't figured that one out either.
I don't know if there's like a requirement or if it's just whoever named it just named it and that's what it's called. I don't know, but um, one of the things I was learning is that like Alex Rudd was talking about how like there's not a lot of small lakes in Tennessee. They're all fairly big, 1,000+ acre deals. And for me, I like figuring stuff out, and that's actually kind of the premise of this video is the reason why I started doing tournaments wasn't to compete because to be honest, I knew I was going to suck the first year because I was competing against guys that's their home lakes, like that's their area that they live in. So I'm
Right?
coming into someone else's territory and trying to compete with them. The reason why I wanted to do tournaments is because I wouldn't mentally think to drive to Massachusetts to fish XYZ lake. But when you have a tournament there, it's an excuse to go. And it's a new
Right?
place that I've never seen before that I get to try to figure out.
See, that's what I learned getting into this too. To kind of build off of what you're saying
Oh,
there.
yeah, you'll appreciate this.
Oh, look at that. That's
Dude,
awesome
these
right
are
there.
fucking good. These are
Heck yeah,
dangerous. And I haven't been able to drink them because I've been on antibiotics for 2 weeks.
yeah,
So I can't, you're not supposed to drink on. Oh, man, dude.
yeah. Oh my. But when I got into fishing, and then you, qualify for the KBF Nationals and stuff like that. Went down to Kentucky Lake and went down to down to Louisiana. I noticed the same thing. Like whenever you look at Kentucky Lake is it's massive. So to try to fish Kentucky Lake is just you can't do it.
It's
You have to
intimidating.
break. Yeah, always way intimidating.
Yep.
So you kind of got to break the lake and down in areas
Yep.
and take like a bay. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
try to fish that there. At least for me, that was a lot easier
Yeah, we
for
have we
me.
have this small little pond about 20 minutes from my house called Champlain. So I fully
Oh, it's
understand what you mean.
Yes,
It's like
exactly. You know where I'm coming from.
this tiny little place, that like it's funny too because what's funny about Champlain too is that I don't think of Champlain. It's when you grow up in an area, it's the lake. Like people are like, "Oh man, you're so lucky you get to fish Champlain." You know how many times I've bass fished Champlain this year? 0. I went trout fishing in March and haven't been back
Yes.
because we had floodwaters, we had ridiculous amount of runoff. The lake is almost black with runoff, and every single day I go on like a Facebook group that I follow, and there's people posting pictures of 50-foot logs and people's docks and just shit flowing down through there. And I'm not fishing Champlain in my kayak. My balls aren't big enough. I'm sorry, but I'm just not willing. That lake goes from and you know from being in the north, there's something about the Pennsylvania line up where you can go from, oh, what a beautiful day on the water to holy shit, hang on in an hour.
Been out on
It's
Lake Erie plenty of times and has
stupid.
done that.
Yeah, Lake Erie, Ontario, dude. And I've
Hmm.
been humbled. I got humbled at a young age by Ontario, where you're out there and you see a black cloud on the Canadian border and you're like, "No, I'm fucking out. I'm out." Cuz
Yeah.
cuz 30 minutes and you're in 8-foot waves and you're hoping that you can make it back to shore. So I don't mess with Champlain much. So that's why I started doing tournaments because I wanted to like expand my ability to fish. And honestly, what's funny about it is I wasn't ready. And that's kind of what the point of like what am I doing wrong topic for this video was. I thought I was a good fisherman. And I feel like I'm decent. But what I have learned is that I'm a good Vermont fisherman and I have a lot to learn in other states.
It varies, yes.
And it's funny because I've always thought of it like being from New England, you don't think of the other states as other states. You think of New England being New England. You think of, to be honest, in most places on the Vermont border, 2-3 hours off of the Vermont border, if somebody literally chloroformed you and put you in upstate New York, put you in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, and didn't tell you you were in a new state, you wouldn't know.
I can see that. Yeah, I
The
can see that.
ruralness in the surrounding areas around Vermont is very the same in Massachusetts.
Hmm.
Now, Connecticut's a whole different fucking story, but the rest of the states around us, like, you could go to those states and not realize you left. If you didn't see the sign that said "Welcome to Massachusetts," you wouldn't know you were still in Mass or in Vermont.
Right.
And but the water, totally different. It's amazing to me the difference. Some of it has to do with conservation. So the reason why I struggled in tournaments, I think, so much in Massachusetts is that they have a lot more hard bottom.
Okay.
It's limestone, it's rock, it's sand. They have vegetation, but it's not. See, with here, there is no hard bottom in most of the places that I fish. It is silted in. It is that slimy. I don't know how to explain it. The snotty crap that when you drop a jig down and you pull it
Oh
back
yeah.
out, you're peeling crap off of the skirt because it
Yes.
doesn't come off.
Kind of like the vegetation just kind of rotted
It's
and
like
is sitting
rotted.
down
It's
there.
like the only way I can explain it to people that don't understand is take leaves in your yard and put them
Hmm.
in a bucket of water and then try to scoop them out tomorrow morning.
Yep.
They're
I
there,
know what you're talking
but
about.
they're just like gritty. They're like slimy. So I've never fished hard bottom. So when I got to Massachusetts and until this year, dude, I never used a Ned rig.
Oh, I don't
Ever.
understand how you couldn't.
Ever.
That's crazy.
Well, because you got to think about it. Like, I never had hard bottom. So I was always using a wacky because of the slow fall.
Right.
So the
Okay. All
wacky
right.
rig was my Ned rig, is what I was using it for. And I was using a wacky rig everywhere that you would use the Ned rig. On the shoreline, against bluff walls. If I wanted to fish deeper, I just Nico'd it. Or I threw a weighted wacky instead of a... Or I actually make my own worms, and I will put more salt in certain ones so that they sink a little bit faster. But I never
Right.
used the Ned rig. What's ironic is that this year, since I fished with Bear in Waterbury, I went to Waterbury Reservoir and I fished with him, and he beat my face in with a Ned rig. He caught, I'm not even kidding you, like, and it wasn't even like, we don't really consider, like, we're just catching fish for fish. Dude, he had 35 rock bass in 2 hours.
Good Lord.
Just every cast. Like, dude, he was literally cast. He'd set the fish in, cast, fish. Like, every freaking cast. And it was just a Ned rig with a TRD. There was nothing fancy about his setup. He was using a spinning rod with a Ned TRD. And I was like, okay, cool. So I tied on a Ned. I didn't catch a goddamn thing on it.
Well, that's crazy there.
And that's the thing. So that's why I went into the tournament season. And to kind of give you guys a recap, for those of you who watched my video today that released, I actually snuck that in a little bit early in anticipation of doing this live. It wasn't supposed to hit for another couple weeks. But I went into the first tournament and I got cocky. So the first live tournament I ever did was last year at Rhode Island. And that one, I basically cheated to get in. So that one was, it was a tournament where you fished all year. And then if you placed in the top 2 in your state, and it was like a Northeast regional thing, then you qualified for the championship event in Rhode Island. And they had 5 lakes that you could fish. So I took a long weekend. I went down there and I pre-fished a couple lakes. And I only got in because there was only one other dude in Vermont that entered. And it was like a week before the tournament ended, and I was like, all I got to do is catch 1 bass. And I'm in. I'm like, that was simple. So I'm like, screw it. So then I ended up, I'm like, and of course, being a content creator, I saw the opportunity of, dude, I get to go fish in Rhode Island. I get to fish somewhere I've never been. I get to do a whole live event tournament deal. So I went down there, dude, and I pre-fished. The first body of water I got to ended up being the body of water I ended up fishing in the tournament. One of the other bodies of water was so freaking small and so much submergent milfoil that you couldn't go 10 feet without clearing your drive.
That's crazy, yeah.
And all I caught there was pickerel and pickerel and pickerel. And I'm like, fuck this. The next ramp I went to, they had dropped the water so much that there was 40 yards between the edge, not even the shore, the edge of the ramp and the water. So no joke, dude, there was like, you would have had to have dragged your boat across 30 yards of bottom to find water to launch. No one ended up launching there. Unfortunately, I think that was the one I really wanted to fish too, because that was the one that kind of made up like lakes up here. So, anyways, long story short, I caught, that was literally that premise of that tournament was the biggest bass. It wasn't a bag tournament. It was the biggest bass.
Okay. All right.
So I caught a 17-incher with like 2 hours left and took 4th. But I was out of first by half an inch.
Yeah.
So like, it was just that tough of a day. So I got cocky and I'm like, I'm going to join a live series next year. So I ended up joining Slay Nation, backing out of that, and ended up doing the MAKB thing because I actually met someone who, Chrissy Fishing, she has an Instagram, so check her out. She's pretty cool. She got me convinced to do the Massachusetts one, and I followed the Jigs and Bigs podcast, and Sean from Jigs and Bigs at the time was the tournament director. He stepped down since, but I had talked to him. I had a little bit of a relationship with him and Bobby, and it kind of turned into, okay, I'm going to try this out. Got down there, first tournament, 4th place. So now I have a 4th place average in my tournament career.
So you're riding a high at this point.
So I'm like, dude, I'm the fucking man. You know, I'm going down there like I am a boss. I'm kicking everybody's butts.
Yeah. Heck yeah, you would.
Go down to the second tournament. And keep in mind, I didn't even pre-fish because it's 3.5-hour drive to this lake. So the only thing I did was digital pre-fishing. I used Google Maps, Google Earth, watched YouTube videos, tried to find any videos I could about it, did a bunch of research, found out as much as I could, right?
Right.
Event number 2. Did the same style of pre-fishing. Did not catch a bass. Caught 2 pike. I think they may have been pickerel. I was so pissed off I didn't even look at them.
And you get a second look.
And the worst part about that tournament was the reason, I know now the reason I didn't catch fish. I spun out too early. And that's really the point I want to get to in this episode is if you're fishing for fun, if you're fishing for competition, here's what I am doing wrong. I went into this tournament and I caught a pickerel 10 minutes in. Boom. Okay, cool. Went around that shoreline, didn't get a bite. The wind started picking up, went around the other shoreline, didn't get a bite. At that point, I was 2 hours into a 6-hour tournament.
Right.
It was early season, and all of my instincts told me, go shallow. Go into this little bay. There was an island, and you're gonna laugh at this, and if you were physically in the room, you would slap me for making this decision. There was an island. On the other side of that island was 2 feet of water with lily pads, submergent grass, and keep in mind, this is June.
And you went to the other side.
And I went to the deeper shit.
God, why?
I was in a
Why?
spawn fishing, bed fishing tournament and didn't even recognize that I was in a spawn fishing tournament. I went around the island because there was 2 or 3 guys in there and they were trying to catch them and I saw them and I was just, I don't know why I wasn't more bullish and go in there. And I'm like, no, it's too shallow. They're not going to be that shallow. I don't know why I think that because when I'm here, dude, I fish 6 inches of water in my kayak and I don't know why I thought it was too shallow. So I fished all the way back up to the top where I caught that pickerel. Didn't catch nothing. Fished all the way back down. Now I'm spinning out hard. Finally, make my way into that little cove. And this is, to this day, I'm still pissed at myself. The inlet was there. 3 feet of water, lily pads, submergent vegetation. There was an island with a gap and then another island. Dude, it is like if you were to write a fucking textbook on where spawning bass are going to be, that's the picture.
Oh my word. Like,
So
I would have not even left there. I would have spent all day right there just picking that apart.
So I get in there.
Hours on end.
My drive jams up. I pop my drive out. And I look to my left. And there's a 17-inch largemouth fucking staring at me. And I'm like, okay. So I start pitching a wacky rig. Now, if I had been a Ned rig fisherman at the time, I would have hit him in the head with a Ned rig. But no, I had a wacky. He didn't give a shit about the wacky because it was too slow. So I eventually moved around in that area. And I was like, you know what? 3 feet of water. It's mostly submergent vegetation. Maybe they're just not hitting bottom. Sometimes during the spawn, you can get them with a topwater, like a Zoom horny toad, or you can get them with something that is above the bed because they'll still come up because they think it's a bluegill kind of scoping out their bed. So I started throwing a Zoom horny toad. Blow up. Fucking first cast. Missed the hook set. Damn it. Tried again. Blow up. Missed the hook set. And dude, the funny part is then I hear, God fucking damn it. And I see a guy next to me doing the exact same thing. Like these fish were all blowing up, but they were mouthing it. They weren't coming out like this. They were punching it.
Right.
They were all lockjawed and not gonna like bite. But the fish that won the tournament were down there. Because that's where the guy that ended up winning caught most of his fish.
I can see that.
So I leave that event, right? Go to the ramp, and I'm pissed, right? I'm fucking mad at myself.
I'm pissed for you.
I'm stressed out. But you know what? I get to the weigh-in. I'm talking to the guys. Half of the field blanked. 18 anglers, 8 of us blanked. So I'm like, okay, I feel better. The tournament director, the top 5 guys, blanked. So I'm like, you know what? This is their home lake. This is their home area. I'm okay. The
Right.
second, the next event after that, I decide I'm going to pre-fish. I can't blank again. And the way this tournament works, for those of you who don't follow or don't know the way I explain this in my videos, but it's an AOY, so it's a season-long tournament. You get points for where you place. So it's a 6-point differential. So there's a 400-point allotment for the tournament, and every place after first loses 6 points, and that's how you get your score for the tournament. They drop your lowest score. So at this point, I've dropped my lowest score. It zeroes out.
Zeroes out.
Who cares at
Right.
this point? Because that one was going to be dropped regardless if it was 400 or,
Right.
6. So it doesn't matter. So
No harm, no foul.
I drive down to the next lake and pre-fish it, and I fish it all day, and I catch one largemouth. And I'm cocky still, and I'm like, you know what? I know this lake. I can figure this out. Nope. So the northern end of this lake is deep. It's the weirdest lake I've ever fished because it is. We've got lakes somewhat similar here, but not. It was deep, like 40, 50 feet, and rock bottom, rock and sand, all the way through. No vegetation, zero. It's like they drew a line and decided that from here north is not going to be allowed to have vegetation. It's like somebody cleaned it. The southern end is everything but the last 2 feet of water is grass. The whole side of it. Like I said, it's like literally somebody took a non-vegetation lake and a vegetation lake and stuffed them together.
Right.
So I fished the vegetation stuff because it's what I'm used to. Caught a
Right.
largemouth pretty much right off when I got down there. Caught a largemouth on a chatterbait. I'm like, boom, done. Chatterbait's an easy bait. This won't be any trouble at all. I watched a guy next to me catch 2 or 3 more on, it looked like a spinnerbait. Chatterbait, spinnerbait, same category. I'm like, okay, cool. I've already been here all day. Screw it. I'm coming back next weekend. I didn't catch a perch, a bluegill, a rock bass. I didn't catch a fucking fish the whole tournament. I was so mad, I threw a temper tantrum. And I'll admit it. I went to the ramp, I packed my shit, and I waved to the guys as they were doing the weigh-in on the way out the door. I didn't even go to the weigh-in. I didn't even acknowledge that there was a weigh-in. I did not even do anything. I just left. I'm done.
Sometimes that's best, though, you know?
It was funny because
just
it
be
was
done.
just... Well, and what it was is, to the credit of this tournament trail, unlike a lot of other tournament trails, they really treat it like a club. So at the end of the tournament, they don't just go, okay, this guy had a good day, he caught the fish, and here's his prizes. They go, I caught him on a wacky deep. How did you catch him? Like, it was like a real meeting.
Okay.
Like, they actually go over it, and they try to encourage you. Like, all these guys had encouraged me when I blanked the last time. You know, man, don't worry about it. You're new. It's new water. Like, they were really, really positive about it. And
Right.
I was like, honestly, if I was slightly, like if I was 10 years younger, back when I was a lot more high strung, I would have broke every one of my fucking rods over my knee and quit fishing. That's how pissed I was. And I wasn't pissed at anybody. I just knew, like, I'm mad. Like, this is bullshit. I should be able to catch at least a fucking bluegill. Like, what the hell? So I drove all the way home. And I was done, dude. I wasn't going to fish tournaments anymore. I was done. I called my wife, and I'm like, I'm not fishing MAKB anymore. I'm done. I'm not doing this tournament stuff anymore. And keep in mind, these are tournaments that I'm getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, driving 3 hours to the boat ramp, taking the half hour to set my boat up, fishing till 3 o'clock p.m., doing a weigh-in from 4 to 5, and then driving home 3 hours.
This is time invested.
I'm putting in a work day, and honestly, like I said, I wasn't planning on making money. If anybody who does local grassroots kayak tournaments and thinks they're going to get rich is fucking insane. It's not going to happen. Your best bet is to pay your gas money to get there.
If you'll get your gas money and then some eats. You know what I mean?
A little bit extra if you do well.
Get some eats. Yeah.
You basically cover.
especially your grassroots one. But like you said, your grassroots one, those are the ones that are a little bit better because they take the time to
Exactly.
get to know you or encourage you, and that's the kind of tournaments that I fished back in Ohio,
So,
Pennsylvania.
and that's what I loved about this trail was like I texted the guys on the way out, and I was like, guys, I am sorry, but I need to get home, and I'm not in a good headspace right now, and I'm gonna head out. I'm not gonna stay for the weigh-in, right? So I did that, and then we got closer. So these are like once a month deals. So for those of you who have been following my channel, that first tournament you saw was in May. The second tournament June. This tournament we're talking about was in July. That's about when me and you started talking because I told you about like being pissed off about that. So then I
Yes.
went down and I fished with my buddy Bobby from Jigs and Bigs and Chrissy, who was the one in the tournament, and I pre-fished the next body of water with them. But it was really about getting content, fishing with them, having some fun. And when I got there, the place made out very similar to a lake I fish at home. And it was like eerily similar, like the way it's got by the access. There's a lily pad field, it's fairly shallow water, there's a bunch of docks around the shoreline. It was like literally a place that I fish. Matter of fact, it's a place that I'm probably fishing Saturday. It's one of those types of bodies of water. And I had really good success. Like, I didn't catch that many fish, but I saw a lot of fish and I could break down this water a little bit better. So I was really excited about it. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do this tournament and I'm going to go down and fish it. Now, this was 2 weeks prior to the tournament, but it was the only day I could get down there, right?
Right.
So I finally get down there, and dude, that was one of the funnest tournaments I've ever fished. And to bring this conversation back so people understand why I'm saying what I'm doing wrong, the difference between that tournament and the two tournaments I blanked is I wasn't fishing a tournament. And that makes no fucking sense to anybody that's watching this video, but anybody who's fished a tournament knows what I mean. I went there to fun fish. And if I get good fish and enter them, awesome, but I'm there to just have a day of fishing. And that's what I went in there thinking. I didn't give a shit about the score. I didn't give a shit about who was competing against me. I just went there with the mentality that I'm there to fish on a Saturday. And it sounds silly. It's like, well, why didn't you just do that when you blanked? It's different when you fish tournaments. Your mentality, if you, I guess it isn't different for probably some people, but I was the type of kid that, like, if I struck out in baseball, I would go home and smash a bat on a tree. Like, I am the most hyper competitive person. I'm competitive in everything I do. I have to check myself when I discipline my kids.
Right.
I have to put myself in timeout when I get angry because I am competitive and I'm gonna win, even if I'm wrong. I'm gonna win. It's just my mentality. It's my killer instincts. And once I step onto the field, or step into the kayak and launch in a tournament, and I actually told my friend, like Chrissy, the girl that I fish with, she's a lot of fun. We're actually gonna have her on the show after the next tournament, and I want to kind of go over her season and stuff like that. But I told
Mm-hmm.
her on Instagram, I was talking to her one day, and I was like, listen, when we fish in a tournament, don't take anything personally. And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you need to understand that the moment that lines in time hits, I'm in kill mode until lines out. It's just how my brain works. I didn't do that in this that tournament. I didn't do it. I went in there and I was like, you know what? And it helped, to be fair, that I caught a 17 and a half 5 minutes in off of a pad.
It kind of softens the blow, makes
That
everything
that
good right out
and
of
to
the
keep in
gate.
mind, this is this third tournament. I'd only caught two pickerel in the third tournament. I didn't catch anything in the last one, and I pull at that time of year probably a 3 pound largemouth.
Right.
But a 17 and a half in a kayak tournament is a solid first fish. Like that's
Oh,
a
you're
great
flying
base.
high on that day right there.
That's
Yeah.
literally like that's you want an average of those and you're gonna be top five most tournaments unless you're fishing fucking OHIV.
That's setting the tempo right there. That's like you're on cloud nine. You're like, let's go. This is the one. This is it right here. Let's
And
go.
and funny, just a credit to the MAKB trail. So this was a Roadrunner tournament, and for those of you who are not familiar, there was I think 4 other lakes that were involved. So the way they do a Roadrunner tournament, it's a way to do kayak tournaments where you can get more people involved because you are limited on how many people can fish an event per permits. So there was 5 other lakes, and the MAKB overall encompassing body, they have east, west, north, south division, but you can fish each other's events, and they have an overall angler of the year. So you have to fish other division events to qualify for the overall AOI. One of the
Right.
guys who I actually had on this live stream interviewed, Nate Shagnon, called me before that tournament began to wish me good luck. And he's in a different division. Like, he just called me. He's like, hey, man, I'm the only one here at the ramp. Just wanted to wish you good luck. I know you've had a tough couple of events. Like, that shows you
That's awesome.
why you do grassroots trails. Because the
That's
dude's like,
it.
hey,
That's
man,
awesome.
just wanted to encourage you before. And he's competing against me. Like, and this is
Right.
a dude that's literally in contention for the AOI. At this point, I blanked twice. I may make top 10. Like, even if I win every event out, I'm still 400 points behind everybody else, no matter what
Right.
you do. So I ended up catching a 17, and then I caught some little fish, and it kind of moved around. But what I did differently was I didn't spin out. And what I've learned about my mentality is I tend to, and I pick on bass boat guys about this. You watch the bass boat guys when they're fishing, and it's flip that trolling motor up, cast, reel, oh, no fish. Flip that trolling motor down, gone. I
Right.
did that. I started doing that crap in those 2 tournaments I blanked. I started like, oh, I need to change baits. It's got to be the color. Oh, I need to fish over there because it's not structure. It's got to be deep. And then I'm like, it's not deep. It's got to be shallow. And I just never actually put the time in to lock
Mm-hmm.
a pattern down. This time, I was just putting around and I was like, this is kind of fun. To be honest, what's funny is I even recorded a couple bass class segments during my tournament. I stopped and like filmed a bunch of crap because I was just like, this is fun. I don't really care. And I even checked the
Right.
score. I had no idea. I got a limit. So the tournament was lines in at 6. I had a limit at 7:45.
That's good. I mean,
And it
that's
started with a 17.
excellent day.
Started with a 17. At that time, I looked back later. At that time, I was in second. I had no
See,
idea.
that's
Had no idea.
excellent.
And that's what I've learned is I can't check the score till noon.
See,
My
now
mentality. But
the one tournament that I won, I was actually looking at. I looked at the live leaderboard at like noon, something like at there noon, 1 o'clock.
yep.
And then once I knew I was in the lead, I couldn't put my phone down. I was constantly looking at my phone, throw something, look at my phone just to make sure
That's the problem.
because like 2 or 3 events before that, uh, I had big fish, and I posted big fish, and I'm like, this is awesome, and it was like a 20 and a half, and I'm like, yo, this is great, I'm killing it.
Yep.
And like literally like 10 minutes later, my buddy would not let me keep it for the first hour. My buddy posts like a 21 and 3/4, and I'm like, it just crushed me. You know what I mean? It was like, good Lord, like, how do you do
For
this?
those of you who don't understand length, so when you do length tournaments, a 21-inch bass is like over 5 pounds. Almost
Yeah.
always. It's like 5.5, 6-pound bass. It's a big bass.
Marsh bass it was killer. It was 21 and a half, 21 and 3/4, something ridiculous.
You
I mean,
know,
it just blew mine.
What's annoying too is those 21s. They're not only long, they almost always spill over the freaking sides of the freaking measuring board. And you look at them and you're like, oh my god. Like a guy's got his hand on it and there's fish on both sides of his hand. Like you're like, what? So
Yeah.
but that's why I don't look at that's why I don't look at the score, because even when I played, so I used to play beer gut softball, and I got just as dedicated to beer gut softball as I am fishing. I actually basically traded that for fishing. I did not know. I ran the team. So I ran the team. I was a team owner, whatever. I was the guy who ran the team, got the sponsors, did all that crap. I had no idea what score was. I was doing the scorebook and I didn't know what the score was. Because I don't want to know. Because if I go up to the plate and we're chasing one run and there's a runner on second, I'm going to try to put the ball to the fence and I'm going to pop it straight up in the air to the pitcher. Because just how my mentality works.
Yep.
So the whole tournament, dude, and you don't see it in the video, but the whole tournament, I'm like, I'm not checking the score. I'm not going to do it. I'm talking myself out of checking it. But every time you submit a fish, what you don't know if you don't use these apps, is it's freaking right there. Like, submit fish is the submit fish button's right here. The scoreboard's right here. It's like you scroll just a little bit and you're gonna see the score. So I was like, okay, I got a limit. That actually became my new rules. Once I hit a limit, I can check it, right? Because then I want to see what I need to do to upgrade. So I got a limit, and I'm like, oh man, I'm in third place at that point because I checked it like late after. So then I started going around and I kept culling, and literally, like, it was half-inch culls, like just tiny freaking. I didn't even put half of them in the video because it was just like, and then I came around the corner, and I had been knocked out of the money. I was down to fifth, and I literally made this decision, and this is why I credit the mentality difference between the events I blanked and this event. Is I'd done a lap around and I was sitting basically on the southern half of the lake, and I went, okay, why am I here when I've been catching on the north end? I'm chasing big fish and I'm doing the mortal sin of kayak tournament fishing. I'm leaving fish to find fish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's just go back up to where I was. I know there was fish up there. I know I saw perch there when I was pre-fishing. So I know the bait's there. And I ended up going back up, and I followed the shoreline up, and I flipped a Ned rig under a dock and pulled out another 17. And I was like, if you see the video, like, I'm freaking out over a fish that's like, and it makes me feel arrogant to say this, but like a 17-inch fish isn't that big. It is, but that it's like the line. It's like the catalyst. 17 to 18 is two different species of fish. It really is in the kayak world. A 17-inch fish you could catch in a lot of bodies of water. 18, 19, that's when you start getting into they're significantly fatter. They're significantly smarter. Like, I don't know why that 1 inch seems to make a difference, but it does. So I'm excited. 17.25-inch bass. It put me in third place, and then I spend the rest of the day just, I'm like, at this point, I don't care where I end up. I made the right decision. I didn't spin out. I didn't go and try to do something that didn't make sense when I already knew where the fish were. I didn't catch another fish the rest of the day. I ended up going the next 2 hours without catching a fish, and I fished right to the buzzer. I was throwing I literally had a mag draft in the air as the freaking buzzer rang, you know? And because I set an alarm on my phone for like 10 of, and then I set it for the time of, so that I know, like, when that alarm goes off, if I get a fish, I gotta, like, burn that thing in and get him on the picture, because you can submit fish or after, you just have to have taken the picture before too, is the rule in our tournament. So we have like a weigh-in where basically a lot of the places that, like, especially in these Roadrunner events, some of those places don't have service, so they give them an hour to get from the ramp to somewhere with service to submit them all in case they didn't have service at the time. They call it a weigh-in, but it's basically just an opportunity to submit your fish. But you have to have taken the photo before 2 o'clock when that tournament ended, you know? So I ended up the funny part is I didn't go to the weigh-in for that one either.
Really?
Yeah, and the reason for it, I should have. I actually regret not going, but the problem is that tournament was 3.5 hours from my house, and the weigh-in was another half hour south.
In the opposite direction. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
And the weigh-in, the way they do it, because they give you that hour. So I'm done at 2. They had bumped the weigh-in because everybody had to travel to 2 hours. So I would have had to hang out for an hour and a half, do the weigh-in for an hour, and then I'm not home till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I texted him and I'm like, hey guys, great event. I really appreciate it, but I really need to get home. And I was like exhausted because I was just tired. You know, it's really tiring when you put that mental stress on yourself in a tournament. Anybody who's
Mhm.
never fished a tournament, do it and you'll understand what we're talking about. It's a different level of fishing. I'll fish 12 hours in my boat. I'll fish 12 hours in my kayak, fun fishing. I'm tired. I fish 6 hours in a tournament, and a lot of times I don't fish the next day
See,
because
they
I'm
got one back
exhausted.
in Ohio. They call it it's the 18-hour Ironman,
Dude, I
and I've
wow,
literally sat 18 hours in my kayak on Lake Erie catching
really?
fish. Oh yeah, dude, it's crazy. But you know, you get different kind of fishing with 18 hours. You know, you start out in the morning, you got that
Yep,
evening bite.
yep.
So there's a lot of different things that you get to deal with that you don't normally get to deal with in a regular, 6 hour tournament. So that's why I like doing that 18 hour, 16 hours or 18 hour Ironman in Ohio. So it's a fun event.
Yeah, no, dude. So it's funny because, like I said, it's a different mentality though. Like when you fish a tournament, you're, it's just because I think it's because you're mentally, you calculate every move. When you're fun fishing, you're like, I might go fish that dock. Maybe I'll fish it later. I might go fish that tree line. Maybe I won't. Like you don't care. When you're quarter of an inch behind, you're like, I've got to find a fish. I've got to find a fish. Where could it be? Is it going to be deep? Is it going to be like your brain is just rolling the whole fucking time,
And
and you're
then if
just
you have electronics on your kayak, it makes it 10 times worse because you can
yep,
see things and you see
yeah,
a tree, you see the dock, you
yep,
see, a brush pile, a rock. You might see that ledge, a point
yep.
where something runs in, and you're like, you're going to fish your way down there. You're not going to just get right to
See,
that.
that's my problem, dude. Too.
But you're hitting everything.
Yeah, that's my problem with. That's actually one of the things that I have to like balance in my head because the type of fisherman I am is beat the bank. You know, I'm a flipping wood. I am a even be honest. Even when I fish reaction baits, dude, I'll run a square bill along the side of a down tree. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not I'm not the guy that's gonna go out and graph for 2 hours and drop shot. It's just not my game, dude. I can't. I don't have the patience for it. I would rather run up and down a bank all day and throw a Ned rig at the same tree 45 times and pull out 10, 12-inch bass than spend 2 hours bouncing a freaking Ned rig off the bottom or bouncing a drop shot to try to catch one big fish. I would rather just run up and down and try to cover as much water as I can.
Yeah.
But in a tournament, you have to think about the fact that there's 20 other, 30 other guys that are doing the same shit you are. So that tree that you come up on probably had 14 Senkos thrown at it today already before you even got there. So you have to like think outside the box. Is it a different presentation? Is it a different speed? Is it a different color? What's that thing? And that's what makes tournament fishing different is that you can't go to your favorite tree and throw your black and blue Senko that always catches fish in that tree because there's a good chance if you weren't the first one there, the first five competitors that went through there threw a freaking black and blue or June bug Senko at that same freaking tree, and they either caught the fish or the fish is sick of looking at the damn Senko. So you got to throw a Ned rig, or you got to throw a wacky rig, or a Nico rig, or make a smaller Senko, or do some of the stuff I do. Like I do weird shit. Like I experiment with stuff all the time. One of the things I do, I don't know if you ever done this, but you actually take like a yum dinger and cut it in half,
Mm-hmm.
lengthwise.
No.
Half. See, I got you because I do. You're like, yeah, cut it in half. Yeah, make it like a 3 inch. Yeah, no,
Yeah, heck yeah, I've done
lengthwise,
that.
right down the seam.
Hmm. Okay, we're gonna have to break this one down. Let's elaborate this.
So,
Unless you don't want to give this secret away,
no,
this could be
actually,
like something
I talked
that
about
you
it.
want to keep in your pocket.
I talked about it in another video too. So what it is
Okay.
when you make it a flat bottom, right?
All right.
I do
Mm-hmm.
it. I only do it with like yum dingers or the ones that I make. You can't really do it with a true senko because the senkos have a lot of salt and they sink fast. What
Okay.
happens is you wacky rig that hook with the flat part down. So when you cast it, that flat bait sits there and it does this
All right. Okay.
because the flatness causes that resistance on the water. The hook bends down, but it basically makes that bait U and it just goes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I use that for is when the fish are really, really lethargic, it does not create a bite for hunger. It creates a get the fuck out of my face bite because it
Right.
falls so slowly and it's so floppy that it's just barely moving back and forth. And you do it in front of docks, you do it in front of brush piles, you do it in front of anything that's like where you know they're sitting in front of it. It creates an aggression bite because they're just like, get out of here. Like, I don't want you in my face. And I don't know why it's not done more, but I've done it with not just that, but I've done it with the Berkeley flatworm, which you're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
drop shot. Do the same thing with that.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it with any type of bait that has that like flat profile because it just creates such a slow fall and it catches so much water that even when there's current, what happens is it does like a wobble because it's
Kind of
flat.
like a fluttering thing. Yeah. Okay. So it might look like a leech per se in there
Yep.
doing that there with the
Yep.
with. Okay.
And it's
Okay. All
just got
right.
a
I'm
weird, and
down.
that's the kind of crap that I end up doing. The problem is I'll do that when I'm fun fishing, but I never think of doing that creative crap when
Nobody.
I'm
Yeah.
tournament
You
fishing.
you never think about that. Like I go out like I go out with the Nico rig all the time, and I'm always like this is my new bait. This is what I'm going to use, and I catch fish with it. But when I get in a tournament,
No, you won't
I
do it.
never fished a Nico
So
ever
what's funny is
ever.
when I go fun fishing, I literally have I have a box. I have a sorter box specific for experimental.
Mm-hmm.
I literally have a box that I'm like, I want to try this today. That's why I have a wall behind me because literally half of this crap has never seen the lake because it's something I bought at Bass Pro or Walmart or Dick's or wherever I was shopping at the time, and it looked good. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna use it right now. I'm not gonna use it because I'm catching fish or I'm fishing in a tournament. But then you get to now, this time of year, dude, experiment time like crazy. Like I do all kinds of weird
Yeah.
crap because you get to a point where when you get to the dog days of summer, playing around. At that point, I feel better because I'm like I didn't catch fish because I was. You know what I've done, dude. You want to hear some weird shit? I put Senkos on
Okay.
bobbers and hook them like you're ice fishing.
Okay.
It works, dude. You take a regular freaking red and white bobber. You give
Uh-huh.
yourself about 16 inches a leader, wacky rig that thing, and throw it up against a fucking lily pad patch and just chill and listen to a podcast. I've caught 16, 17-inch bass on a wacky rig bobber worm.
Again, something that I've never tried.
Yeah, and it's just because it's just sitting there, and they're sitting there under the freaking lily pads, and maybe they don't want it, but it's just there, and they're just like, get out of here. I do the
Dang,
same
see,
thing with like paddle tails like these, or like the
mm-hmm.
Berkeley Gilly is a perfect example. Berkeley Gilly is a perfect bait to do that with because it already looks like a bait fish. You
Mm-hmm.
just hook it just like you're ice fishing, right behind the back dorsal,
Yep.
and you just let it float around in a bobber. And because it's suspended there, it looks like a fish that's suspended and dying because the plastic kind of flips over in the current.
Yeah.
The bobber comes up and down, so the bait kind of like just looks like a fish that's just sitting in one spot for no reason. It looks like a defenseless bait fish. That's the kind of crap that I do
Yeah.
this time of year.
Yeah.
I never do it during a tournament, but I do sometimes when I'm having fun, and that's what I ended up
Right.
doing in that tournament. So then the next tournament, which is the one you guys just watched today, I ended up placing 5th. That was probably the funnest tournament. That was the funnest, most stressful tournament I've ever fished in my life.
So that one there, is that the one where we was like messaging prior
Yep.
to? Oh
So
yeah. See? So
yeah,
I'd like
exactly.
to take a little bit of credit for that one there then.
Dude, so you guys are watching this, it's actually very interesting. I'm driving down this tournament, and it's funny because, again, I had already decided that I wasn't going to do any more tournaments. I wasn't going to make the drive anymore. I was sick of it. But I decided I was going to do it. So I'm on my way down to this lake. I hadn't prepared for this lake at all. I basically looked at a depth chart map the night before. That's all I'd done. And I'm driving, and I'm on my way down there, about 45 minutes down there. And I'm like, should I run a topwater? Should I run a jig? Do I want to use a whopper plopper? Do I want to use chatterbait? Should I use a square bill? And I'm just fucking spinning the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, how long do I have to get there? Pull up my phone, and who's online for no freaking reason at fucking 2:30 in the morning? PJ's on Facebook for some fun. So I messaged him because I'm like, maybe he left his phone open. I don't want to fucking like literally, I don't want to wake him up or nothing. So I'm like, hey, you actually awake? And he's like, yeah, man, I'm keeping weird hours. And I'm like, cool. So I'm literally speech to texting him for an hour. Hey, what do you think about doing this because of these conditions? And he's like, well, what I would do is this. We literally game planned my whole day all the way down. And then I get to the ramp, and I'm like, hey, man, yeah, awesome. I ended up picking up. It's funny because that event, too, Nate called me at that event, too.
Oh, yeah?
He called me for that event, too, and he wished me good luck for that one, too. But what was funny about it is a lot of the shit that we talked about was what I ended up doing.
See, that's why I'm taking a little bit of credit for this one too.
And dude, that was a weird tournament because for the first, like, I had a limit quick in that one, like really quick. But that lake is notorious for being loaded with fish. Like, I think I caught 20. I'd stopped counting.
But they're all cookie cutters for the most part, right? They're all
12, 13s all day.
12, 13, 14s.
All fucking day.
Right.
And it was frustrating because I caught my limit, and then I immediately upgraded. So I caught 12, 13, 14. Boom. Awesome. Caught a 12, a 14. Boom. Okay, cool. So now I'm in third place when I check the score, right? And I'm excited. I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to be doing good on this. Keep in mind, I had just started getting sick. That's where my cold started, was at that tournament.
Okay.
I was hacking, coughing. Like, I did not feel good. I forgot my cough drops on shore. I felt like crap. I ended up going back to shore at one point, getting in my truck. Got lucky, too, because I got in my truck. I left my fucking window down, my wallet in my truck, just sitting there on the boat ramp. And this is one of those boat ramps that's like the ramp, and then there's the highway, like, behind it.
Anybody
so
can
anybody
come by.
could grab stuff. So I ended up turning back around. So the worst part was I got my cough drops and the crap I needed and headphones. For some reason, now I need headphones when I fish. It's actually really irritating to me. So I need something to calm my brain down. So I listen to a podcast. So I just and I'm not even listening to it half the time. I don't even know what it is. Like a lot of times I'll end up listening to it again because I didn't actually comprehend what the podcast said. But it's always like a fishing podcast. But like sometimes it'll give me an idea or whatever. But so I threw my headphones on, got halfway across the lake, and realized I didn't lock my truck. So I went back to get within range. I'm doing this with the kayak till I hear the beep. And then I turn around, I throw a mag draft, and hooked a 15. And I was like, okay, so big baits, that's what I need to do. Didn't work.
Right.
So then I went top water, and I got a bunch of blow-ups, but it was like 12, 10, 11, 12. Like, just, I needed, and this is why I say it's the most fun and stressful tournament. I placed out of the money by a quarter inch. Fifth place, quarter inch.
Heartbreaking.
Out of second, half inch. Full inch would have won it. That's the spread from fifth to fucking first, dude. Was basically an inch.
An inch.
And tiebreakers.
That's a tight event right there. That's tight.
Every fish we caught was like just and to be honest, I probably should have half-ass measured. You know when you take the measuring board and you hold your measuring board up and you're just like, yeah, I think that's good. You just kind of hold it up there You don't actually lay them flat and get that extra, pet them a little bit, get them to feel a little taller before you put them down. Anybody who does tournaments are laughing their asses off right now because you know how you try to will a 1/4 inch out of a fucking fish on a measuring board. But there's little tricks you can do with a bass when you put them down and you lay them down. Sometimes they'll curl their tail. You can kind of smooth them out a little bit and get a little bit more. And a bunch of them I just kind of held up and I was like, nope, throw them back in.
Threw them back.
And to be honest, I'm gonna make some more next year. My wife actually has one of those cricket things, and I actually had her put on my forearm an actual measurement. So like you could hold the fish up and it would like tell you how long it was based on your shirt, which was really nice. I thought about getting a tattoo, honestly. I almost want to get like a fucking measuring board tattoo so I can just be like, yeah, that one's 6 inches. Okay, I'll throw it
Did
back.
you see it comes around? Somebody will tag me in it like every 6 months. The guy has one like tattooed on his leg.
Yeah.
You seen that one? Yeah.
I see a guy. Yeah. His whole calf is basically a measuring board.
Yeah. Somebody will tag me. It's like every 6 months. It comes back around.
To be honest with you, dude, I've considered it on my forearm because I did the math, and from my pinky to my elbow was like 12 inches, so it's like a legal limit fish. So it's like I could like hold it up there and be like, okay, yeah, it's that big. But
see, I got no more room.
Yeah,
I can't go nowhere.
Yeah, because I thought about it, dude. I really did. I want it to be accurate though. You're gonna have to actually like lay out a ruler and like make sure we're talking. I don't want to short myself.
That's the thing. I want it to be, like my tattoos. I want them straight, So I'm going to a good guy. I don't want it to be some wonky shit,
Exactly. But yeah, dude. So I ended up fighting right to the end again on that one, and ended up 5th place. But dude, it was like, I've never been so proud of a 5th place in my life.
And you should be. Even the other one too. I mean, like you should be proud of every finish, really.
True.
But I mean, like you said, you went and you just fun fished and you didn't put any pressure, no stress on yourself. Yep. You had a good day. You know what I mean? And then, this last one, where you 5th place, you kind of put some time and effort into it. We pre-gamed it on the way down there.
Right.
But I mean, all of the work that you put in, no fish is a dumb luck fish. No, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean,
and the thing is, when you're doing a tournament like that, it's not only the fact that you're catching fish, but it's also the fact that there's 17 other guys in that same lake.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're fun fishing where there might be 4 or 5 guys. Like, keep in mind, this is like I think it's 400 acre lake, like 300 acre. It's not a big lake. Like, this was not a Champlain. This was not a, Lake.
So you're seeing other competitors.
You're literally
you see other competitors.
So if you actually watch the video, I implore anybody to go watch the first fish I catch, and you watch, and I'm like, oh, got a fish, and I reel it in, and I pull it up, and you see me go. That's because I was looking at the guy that won. He was fucking 20 yards off of my right, and he's watching. I caught the first fish of the tournament, and I was right next to him. Like, he was the tournament director, was 30 yards off of me. And I'm holding my fish up, and that's why I kept doing that. Because he was right there. Like, and that's how a lot of these tournaments are. Is the good thing is, like, we're really respectful. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm going to go in behind you. Are you fishing this way or that way? I don't want to cut you off. But, like, this isn't a massive body of water, which is actually good and bad. Because I like Roadrunner tournaments more because I don't see my competitors, because I know who I'm fishing against, right? So I see their kayaks and I see them boat a fish, and it just sinks you. And you're like, I didn't catch one, and he's got one. So now he's probably ahead of me. He could have only caught his first fish of the day, but in your head, he's like, that fish is bigger than mine. He's gonna win. Like,
that's his 5th one.
You see that, and you're just like, no, he's catching fish. No, those are my fish. Like, you kind of get competitive about it. And that's the whole thing. So then, like, the whole tournament thing, like, at the end of the day, like, they were just all talking about, like, the guy that won it literally caught all of his fish on wacky rigs. Like, and it was just like we were talking about at the end of it. I got one more event next weekend, and what's crazy, and again, I keep saying the word, it's frustrating, but I'm in 8th overall, blanking twice.
So if you have a good outing here, you could probably jump up into the top Top 5, top 4?
It's
Could you
possible.
crack 3 or no?
I don't think I could crack top 3.
Right,
From the point spread, actually, I can look it up real quick. See if I can get in there. Trail. That's what I like about fishing chaos. They actually have a trail thing,
right.
so you can get right into your standings. So in the Western Division, I'm ninth. Sorry, I'm 200 points behind Chrissy, my friend. Of course, I'm gonna knock her off. It's funny because I was joking with her for that last tournament. I was like, I need you to place first. And she goes, why? And I'm like, well, because you're in contention. And if you place first, then the person that doesn't place first means that they're going to place second, which means I'm that much closer to getting ahead. So I have 1128, and the guy in first has 1898. So it's 700 point spread I can only get if I win 400.
400, right.
But if I win, right, that puts me at 1528, which would put me in seventh based on the current points. Because a seventh place person actually has 1504. The person above that's got 1570. So I would have to win. Now, I have mentally not committed to this. But there's a championship event for 600 points.
And it is
4.5 hours away on the Cape.
Oh my.
It's in Wash P, Mash P, Make P, something like that. It's right on the fucking like ocean. Like it's on this. It's far into the Cape. Like it's the. I think it might even parts of it might even be brackish. Like it's that far over, you know. But
Dang.
if I were to win and then get a 600 pointer, I'd be close.
Yeah, right.
But I'd have to drive 4 hours one way to compete and 4 hours home.
So there's 8 hours in driving.
And then
6 hours in an event.
And probably a tank and a half of gas because I drive an F-150, which are real famous for being great on fuel economy.
Right.
And I have the V8. I don't have the little baby 6 Eco with the fucking turbos. I've got the Coyote Mustang fucking motor in it. So it gets 19 max to the gallon.
Well, now here's a thought. Now, if this Chrissy that you're friends with,
she rented a room.
I was gonna say, is there a way to do an Airbnb with a bunch of people that could go up there and
I thought about
kayaks?
asking her, but I don't know how her husband would feel about some random dude from Vermont shacking up with his wife in a beach house for the weekend.
I was just trying to get you there.
Dude, it's run through my head, but the funny part is there's a couple things. I'm saying this on a live stream that my wife's probably gonna watch later, but this girl, so Chrissy, it's funny, and I don't know if it's considered insulting or not, but I don't know if I can even get this to show up, but like, hold on, let's see if I can find. So that's Chrissy.
Okay.
So she was in one of my videos. She's packing up at the end of my tournament video, and I'm editing it, and she's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "Who? Nelson?" She goes, "No, the other one." And I'm like, "Chrissy?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "It's Chrissy." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "You didn't tell me she was hot." And I was like, "Huh?" And she's like, "You didn't tell me she was pretty." And I'm like, to me, she's fucking Chrissy. Like, she's no more attracted to me than you are. Like, she's a fishing buddy. Like, I'm like, I think of her as like one of the dudes in the tournament.
Yeah.
But
just
like,
just another competitor.
So, and then I end up asking a couple of my other friends, because I have friends that are females. Like, I have my best friend's a female that I've never met in person. Met her on Xbox, and I talk to her every day. but I don't really like. I'm married. Like I don't think about like other women and shit. But like, it's one of those
Right.
like, I don't know if I could swing. Hey, yeah, that girl that you said was attractive in my last video. I'm gonna stay in a beach house on Cape Cod with her.
Now I said with a couple of people. I didn't just
Yeah.
say you
Well,
and
that's the
her.
problem
I
is I
said
guess it's a small
if
room that she
Chrissy
rented,
and
so
a couple other people. I
next
mean, come on.
next year I plan on trying to do this group they do EKF, which is like their version of like Hobie.
Hmm.
So they do like St. Lawrence, they do Cayuga, they do Champlain, they do what the fuck is the big one? Not Connecticut River, but there's another river in New Hampshire that they do. I can't remember what it is, but there's another big like fishery in New Hampshire that they do. So I'm thinking about going and doing one of those events and getting like a room with her and Nate and a couple of the other guys and doing that kind of thing. The good
Hmm.
thing is next year, supposedly, we'll see if it works out, but a guy actually reached out to me because I was supposed to be the Slay Nation director for Vermont this year, and I ended up having to back out. A guy reached out to me because he signed up to be the Slay Nation director for next year. So we may have a tournament trail here.
Oh, okay.
And the lakes that he's talking about fishing, because he asked me, he's like, what have you looked into? What have you figured out? And I was like, well, like for example, there's some lakes like Champlain, for example, I would avoid because of the liability with the weather, but also
Sure.
the state of New York and the state of Vermont are kind of dicks to each other when it comes to tournament fishing.
Hmm.
Same thing happens to the Bassmasters. That's why they launch out of Plattsburgh. And they don't fish certain spots because there's an invisible line that goes down the middle of the lake, and this is the Vermont side and this is the New York side, which is stupid because as a Vermont resident I can fish either side of the lake.
Right.
With my fishing license I can fish either side, but the Bassmaster's got to buy both tags because it's a tournament.
Oh, that's crazy. That's
And they
crazy.
do the same shit with the Connecticut River. New Hampshire doesn't let you fish their side unless you have a permit for both sides of the river.
Now, what if you're fishing from a boat?
Still
You're
count.
underwater.
Still
You're
counts.
legal, right?
No, it's literally if you have a fishing license in Vermont, you can fish both sides of the Connecticut fun fishing. If you're tournament fishing, you can have one license, but you can only stay on the side you have a permit for. So if you want to do a permit on the Connecticut River, you have to get two permits, one from the state of New Hampshire and one from the state of Vermont, because there's some places where that line isn't dead center. So you actually
That's
literally
just
can't get to
crazy.
one side of the river because that line is so close and because of the way the shore comes in.
That's crazy.
So there's places that you just avoid doing tournaments because you have that stupid pissing match between the states. And the thing about
Oh
New
yeah.
Hampshire is their permits are done by lottery. They're not
Oh.
done, yeah.
Oh man.
So you're not even guaranteed. You pay money to maybe get your events.
Wow, that's
So there's a lot of other
crazy.
places. So the funny part is that lake I tell you I fish all the time, the one where I do all
Mm-hmm.
top water. That's the
Mm-hmm.
first lake on his list. That's that's
Nice.
that's where he's gonna start his season in May.
So that'll work out.
My first 6 fish I caught there in May were 6, 7, 7, and 5 last year. This year, I was there 2 weeks ago, the day before I got sick and couldn't fish anymore, and I
Mm-hmm.
caught 3 17s on a frog. Like that place, dude, I can call my shot on that lake, and that's bragging, but dude, that's a place that I can go, and if I don't catch fish, there's something wrong.
Right.
And then he picked 3 other lakes that I don't want to name because then people will know where I'm fishing, but
Mm-hmm.
they're all lakes that are like an hour from my house.
I see.
So I could go pre-fish my ass off. And he's only telling me this because he wanted me to help him. Like, I might end up like helping him vet fish at the end of the day, like the weigh in and stuff. Help him go in and vet
Mm-hmm.
some of his fish. Help him get some stuff organized. Help advertise it. Use YouTube to promote it and all that. But, dude, if he does that trail, it's going to be a lot of fun. And there's also, if you do end up coming up for the Northeast, there's a trail in the Adirondacks.
Okay.
They fish a lot of the Adirondack lakes, and it's a team. They have a couple team events.
Yeah, I like doing the buddy events. Those are cool.
There's no membership fee for those. It's just you
Mm-hmm.
pay your entry and go.
Right.
So you don't have to be a member to participate in their events. You show up. You just pay your fee on Tourney X and go. The ones I'm doing on Slay Nation are like that too. Like if you happen to come up on a weekend that I have a tournament, you pay $10 and you can be my alternate. I think I can do like 2 or 3 alternates a year.
Oh, okay.
So you just pay $10 and then you fish with me. The way it works, you have to stay within 30 yards of each other because it's a kayak team tournament. Because the concept is it's small vessel is what they call it. So you can use up to a 20-foot John boat. It just has to be only powered by trolling motor. You can't use a big motor at all. Like you can't even start the gas motor if you do your DQ'd.
Mm-hmm.
But they make the kayak guys stay close, which to be fair is kind of a dumb rule in my mind because I know the John boat guy can't separate from his other guy, but at the same time they could both have been in kayaks and then taken that advantage. But
right,
honestly, a lot of times when I fish with someone, I'm 30 yards from them anyways because it's like, okay, I'll fish shallow, you fish deep. You just run down a bank. You know, you cast that way, I cast that way. You throw a spinnerbait, I'll throw a jig, and we'll figure out what they're working on, and then you kind of narrow it down anyways. So like at the end of the day,
depending on where you're at, somebody's running a channel, somebody's working a shoreline. You're within a couple of 30 yards.
You stay within a certain distance of each other, and you just work the opposite bait that they're working, and then you just narrow down the pattern faster, so it'll still be fun. But
yeah,
so that's something that I'm looking forward to next year if that ends up happening. Mm-hmm. If not, I haven't decided 100%, but if not, I'm either gonna do the Adirondack Trail. But the problem is they fish like Lake George. I don't know if you know, if you probably don't even, you may have lakes like this around you, but this lake is the prissest goddamn place on the planet. So you have to bring your boat to a DNR station and have it cleaned and certified with a sticker before you can bring it to the ramp, and they only let so many boats per day.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. It is Lake George, New York. It is a tourist mecca. It is a huge revenue thing, and they have 0 invasives in an area that every other lake around them is full of fleas and full of milfoil and full of zebra mussels and full of every goddamn thing that came from China that there is.
Right.
But I don't want to have to get to the boat ramp at 4 o'clock in the morning so that they can pressure wash my goddamn kayak to stick a sticker on it so I could fish a tournament. And the worst part is you then have to sign an affidavit that says that you haven't been in any waters that have invasives. Yeah, dude, it's nuts. Massachusetts is like that too. So Massachusetts, you have to sign an affidavit that you put on your. It's not even really it's not notarized, it's not legal, but it's literally a yellow piece of paper that you sign that says you bleached your kayak, you haven't been in a lake that has any invasives in 2 weeks, that you haven't fished in these specific bodies of water, and let me tell you, 2 or 3 of them are the ones that I fish every weekend. So I have to literally bleach my kayak when I go to certain lakes in Massachusetts because otherwise technically I could be fined and arrested, and especially considering all I've got to do is turn to YouTube and go, yeah, dude, he was at fucking Hortonia last weekend. There's a video right here.
Yeah,
it's a little harder for me to cheat in a tournament because I got a video recording of me being on that lake yesterday. So I wash it all down with bleach and do all the stuff I'm supposed to do. But they're hardcore about it. So
wow.
I don't know if I want to do that tournament trail or if they don't end up doing the Vermont trail. I've debated on doing either the New Hampshire Slay Nation trail just to do a different state or going back to MAKB. Those 3-hour drives, though, dude, they're just brutal.
Oh, they have to be brutal. Have to be.
And it sucks because it's funny because those guys get to the ramp 5 o'clock in the morning, and like, yeah, man, it's early, and I'm like, dude, I was up yesterday to drive here.
Right?
like, like I went to bed 6 hours ago, bro. Like, are you kidding? Like, I get it. I literally on the days that I have tournaments, I work remote. I'm lucky enough to work a tech support job, so I work remote, and I literally go to bed at 5:30 on those
You
Fridays.
almost have to, though.
I
You have to.
literally work remote, and I literally take like I eat dinner, like I eat my lunch, my work lunch. I eat at like 4 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and I eat it so late that I know I'm gonna be able to just get through the night. I literally will shower on my lunch break, and then at 3 o'clock I eat lunch, and then at 5 o'clock I close my laptop, and I go to bed.
Good
And
Lord.
sometimes I down about 3, 4 of these
That'll help you sleep.
to sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't, dude. And you're up at 2. And the problem is, I don't know about you, but like right before a tournament, it's like there's something about that morning. So like one of the things I do, and I actually didn't do it tonight, but before I go fishing in the morning, even if it's fun fishing, I usually have a backpack prepped with my GoPros, everything charged. I have a lot of times before a tournament. That Wednesday, I tie on all the baits that I'm going to use for the first round. I figure out roughly what I want to use. I pretty much have like a standard loadout. It's always like a chatterbait, a jig, paddle tail swim bait, generic stuff that I can use to cover whatever situation. And then that's some of
Mm-hmm.
the stuff we were talking about on the way down there at 3 o'clock in the morning. And
Right?
I usually have my kayak hooked to my truck. I have my backpack already in my truck with my cameras and everything. I have everything literally ready to go so that when I get up in the morning, I grab my water bottle, my car keys, and I'm in my truck in 15 minutes because I want to sleep as most time I can before I leave. But the problem is I always end up leaving really early because I get up at like 1:30 for whatever reason. I'm always up before my alarm, and then I can't get back to sleep, and my brain starts racing, and then I'm the first one to the ramp. I drove 175 miles to get to the goddamn boat ramp, and I beat the guys that live 20 minutes away. And I
I've
just,
slept at a boat ramp before.
dude, it's funny. If I do the Massachusetts Trail next year, some of the ramps that, if we do some of the same bodies of water, I've scouted on the way home, and there's a lot of like Appalachian Trail pull offs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of trailheads on the way down there that I've thought about going down Friday night. Like, leave
Oh, yeah,
work at
I've done
5
it.
and drive down there and just sleep because if I did the 4 hours Friday night, then I can sleep right up until 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then roll into the boat ramp. And at that point, I'm close enough to the boat ramp where I could pretty much set up my kayak the night before. I actually figured out a way. I actually thought about building a frame. So the way my kayak is set up now is my kayak's actually below 2 rod racks
Mm-hmm.
that I framed in. I thought about reinforcing those and putting plywood over top of it and putting one of those like 1-man backpacking tents to sleep right
Oh,
on
yeah,
top of my
yeah,
trailer.
yeah.
And then that way they can't fuck with my kayak because they got to move me to get to it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's something that what I thought about doing also is they make, I don't know if you've seen it, but they make the soft topper caps.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like an old convertible top material.
Yeah.
I thought about buying one of those for my truck just for tournaments because I don't really want to cap all the time. It's a pain in the ass, and they create too many blind spots, and they're just kind of annoying. But
Yeah.
I thought about buying one to use as basically like a camper shell so that I could sleep in it
Mm-hmm.
because I have the mattress that goes in the back of my truck because I had a cap on my last truck. When I had my Ram, I had a cap on it, and I used to sleep in it when I did like. I used to go camping. We used to go to Lake Ontario every year, and I would just sleep in the parking lot because my parents rented a boat slip. So instead of
Right.
paying for, we weren't supposed to, but instead of paying for a campground, we would just sleep in the parking lot. I would just
Yeah.
climb in the back of my truck after dark and sleep in my air mattress, and I would deflate the air mattress in the morning. And they wouldn't know. Because to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, you look in the cap of any fisherman's fucking truck, and there's air mattresses and poles and buckets, and there's this shit back there. That's just how it works, you know?
It's it.
So I thought about doing that next year, if I end up doing tournaments next year, I may end up just investing in a cap if I'm going to do those travel ones and just sleep in the back of my truck because it is brutal. I actually almost fell asleep on the second one that I blanked.
Right.
I called that friend I was telling you about. I called her and I was like, hey, I need you to tell me a story. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I don't give a shit what we talk about, but I need you to like activate my brain because I was like
Oh, that's the worst too.
50
That's the
miles an hour,
worst.
70 miles an hour on the highway, the trailer, and I'm trying to like, and I'm on like 3 energy drinks. There's no way I could even do any more caffeine. I can't. I'm maxed out. There's nothing I can do. And I'm like, music blaring didn't do me any good. I'm like, I just need someone to talk to me
Windows
so I have to
down.
think about what I'm saying so I actually stay awake. So I ended up talking to her because my wife was at work and I was talking to her all the way home. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the problem is I gotta find a happy medium, and I'm hoping that the local trail works out because I may still travel to do a few,
Yeah.
but I would rather just go do like a couple. Like honestly, my goal would be to do like a Hobie, but they're freaking. I don't know if you've seen the entry fees on those.
Yeah.
Dude, they're like $300, something like that for the entry
They're
fees on
getting up right
those.
now. Yes. See, now that I moved up here, I'm hopefully going to shoot over and do a couple in Ohio because I'm
So,
only
dude,
4 or 5 hours away now.
Blanchard is doing a tournament trail, and it's I want to say there's a couple near you. You
Oh
should
yeah.
look it up. There's Alex Rudd, somebody else, Bailey Egbert,
Mm-hmm.
and all that. They talked about it's like the adventure kayak series or something, and it's like a festival, dude.
With Drew Gregory and
Drew
all them there.
Gregory, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
Drew
yeah,
Gregory that's
yeah.
doing it. They were
The
talking.
guys that I fish with in Ohio, the Ohio kayakers, um, they just posted on Facebook yesterday. They were sitting down with Drew Gregory and going to try to do something after their event because their last event is coming up this weekend here.
Yep.
I have to work. It's at one of my favorite lakes back in Ohio, and then they're setting something up with him. So I'm hoping to see what they release as far of a
So
date, and then go over
So
there
yeah,
and
it was
with
him.
them.
Sorry, I get him mixed up sometimes. But yeah, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doing an adventure series thing. His MC is gonna be Alex Rudd.
Is it?
So but they're talking about it's funny. It's a 2 day tournament, right? But it's like
Mm-hmm.
half a day on Friday. But like he's gonna have like vendors and like a festival and like a big group meeting thing all day Friday, all day Saturday. He says he's gonna have like bouncy houses there for the kids. Like it's not gonna be just a like show up and fish and go home. It's gonna be like a festival every time he shows up.
So that's pretty
I
awesome.
was really excited about it until he released the list, and I was like, yeah, 10-hour drive. I think the closest one was like mid Pennsylvania.
You probably because he lives in Ohio now.
So, and that's what I'm saying that he may
Yeah.
have something in your area, and I don't think there's like a membership or anything. He says it's like, and he's like got like weird rules. Like he's got like the smallest fish is like is like a side pot. He's got
Uh-huh.
there's like a he's doing a team and an individual event as part of the same event. So if you want to enter in both, you can. But if not, you can be an individual or team. He's not like restricting stuff. Like he's basically making it so like you can get out of your kayak and wait if you need to. You can like
Yeah,
some of
he
these
loves
tournaments.
doing that kind of stuff.
So it looked like a really cool kind of thing. And to be honest, the dude's kind of big in the industry, so you know he's gonna get backing.
Mm-hmm.
You know he's got a lot of companies behind him that are gonna come in. Apparently, they're like gonna be auctioning off a kayak at every tournament, like
Mm-hmm.
like raffling or something. Like it looked pretty cool. Like I saw about it and I was like, oh, cool. I'm like, you're coming to Champlain or you're coming to because I'm in Vermont, so like Champlain's it. Yeah, this is the
That's the puppy.
this is the one that likes to chew walls, right? This is why I keep it, because this is the one I didn't want.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're the one I didn't want. Yeah, yeah. Keep in mind, this is 6 months old. Cane Corso genetics.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Cane Corso and Coonhound and
Oh
Shepherd
my. Okay.
and Shepherd. So
Hmm.
stubborn as shit, going to be massive, and smart as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awful combination for a dog. This is awful, dude. My door outside this wall, she's taken the paint off an aluminum door. She scratched it so hard, her paws are flat, and she has figured out that she can turn the door with her mouth. So the doorknob is
Wow.
pitted because she bites it and tries to rotate it.
Oh my goodness.
Not a that's why I had to build a room to contain this animal, because I had her in a crate, like a cage that I built in there, and she got stuck in it because she pressed so hard on the door she bent a dog kennel with the pipes.
Yeah.
So I just gave up.
So now
All
she
right.
rules the house.
So we probably were going on what, an hour and a half now.
Yep.
I was trying to think of topics for the next live. Now the goal for this, guys, for anybody watching, we're doing this every other Thursday, tentatively. I may change the day for 2 reasons. There's this little thing that shows up on Thursday nights called the NFL that's going to compete with me a little bit, and I'm probably going to lose some viewership because of that. And we don't know, because PJ's got a new job and we don't know what his work schedule is going to be. So I'm
Right.
not going to get him fired because he has to miss his first day of work because he's got a live stream.
Yeah.
So
They frown upon that stuff.
yeah, it's a little bit. I was actually on
Yeah.
the phone with my wife when my boss walked in today, so that was really funny. I was talking about this live stream, but yeah. So we're gonna be doing these. We're gonna be picking random topics. A little bit of foreshadowing my next live event, and PJ is gonna want to watch this one because he's probably gonna like this topic. We're going into live, and we're gonna talk about forward-facing sonar because everybody else is, so why not do it?
Everybody has to,
But
right?
me and my boy Daniel are gonna talk about that on that channel. But I think the one topic I wanted to bring up, and we were actually gonna do this as a show before, but you were in the process of moving, is I want to do Nemesis Lakes for the next
Yes.
episode. So for
Yeah.
those of you who aren't familiar with the term, basically it's a body of water that everybody seems to catch fish on, but for some reason you just can't figure that place out. So if you guys want to stay tuned for the next episode, we're going to talk about that. I'm actually going to be fishing one of those lakes maybe this weekend, if not next weekend. But it's something that I think a lot of people don't talk about on the internet, is that there's always, almost everybody I know has that one that they're like, you love that place? I fucking hate that place. There's always that lake, so I want to try to bring that up, maybe bring in some other people. We might bring in some extra guests. We're going to have some guests on. If anybody who's watching this that's subscribed to my channel or not, if you're interested in coming on and being a guest and telling your story about fishing, you know, we can only talk so much throughout the day before we run out of topics, so we're more than happy to bring someone else on to lighten the load a little bit. But overall, this is how it's going to be. It's just going to be 2 dudes talking on the internet about fishing, especially because we're northern guys, and we're about 2 months away from being depressed and sad because all of our water is frozen, and unless
Iced out.
unless we want to go, risk hypothermia to catch a bluegill, it's not really worth it. So,
I'm gonna risk hypothermia to go try to catch some steelhead.
dude, you need to throw a GoPro on when you do that. Absolutely, I'm gonna mail you a fucking GoPro because I think that would be awesome. I want to try it, dude. I want to try it. I gotta learn how to fly fish. Matter of fact, if you come up, that's what we should do.
Got them right there.
You should bring some fly fishing rods. I mean, let's be honest. I live in Vermont. It's like what,
Yeah.
top 5 fly fishing destination, and I've never done it. I kind of
Right.
feel ashamed of myself. We should definitely do a video on that too. But But for now, guys, long-winded exit. I want to thank everyone who's taken time to watch this video. If you're watching it after the fact, I appreciate you taking time because I'm sure this one's going to look ridiculous with an hour and a half on the bottom of it. But we're going to be doing this every couple of weeks, barring schedules and life conflicts. But we're going to be here. If you guys want any topics that you want us to talk about, send me a message. I am Binya Outdoors on every freaking social media that you have. I guarantee you can't find one that I don't have an account on. I may not check it, but I'm there. So want to thank you guys for coming along with me. And as always, let's get out there, catch more fish. And